This morning I'm on Sherwood Heath and I'm having a quick walk round. The most unusual thing I'm going to see this morning is the bright thing that's trying to get through the clouds in the sky. If I remember right, it's called the sun. We haven't seen it here for days. I've just come on Sherwood Heath just for a quick walk round. Now it's actually stopped raining. Been raining steady all morning. Right, and gloomy, horrible morning it's been, but it is brightening up now, and that thing in the sky over there, there's even a bit of blue sky. Thankfully it's up there, that blue sky. But I've just come on to Sherwood Heath for a wander and experience the start of the incredibly mild few days that we're going to have. In fact, the temperature on the way here in the car was reading 12.5 centigrade, which for a couple of days before New Year's Eve is absolutely stupidly mild. And it's going to get even more mild. Now, unfortunately, despite the very mild temperatures, a rather breezy wind may spoil things. Not necessarily by tempering the temperature, but just being a bit too breezy. Almost certainly though, over the next couple of days, it will pay the entomologists and naturalists to keep an eye on flowering plants in the gardens, because almost certainly there will be a number of sightings of butterflies, probably small tortoiseshell and peacock more than anything else. But red admiral is likely even in Nottinghamshire, because red admiral now overwinters successfully in Nottinghamshire, and for a couple of times it has been the first butterfly Dillis and myself have seen early in the year. Mild weather during winter is incredibly rare. You occasionally get the odd mild day, but a prolonged spell of several days really mild weather is definitely unusual. And temperatures in the southeast of the country are predicted to reach possibly as high as 17 or maybe 18 centigrade. I think the UK record for December is 18.5-ish. I don't know what year that was. It doesn't look as though it's going to be those kind of temperatures in Nottinghamshire, but we're certainly expecting around about 15 or 16 degrees centigrade, and that's more than enough, as I mentioned earlier, to bring insects out of hibernation. Honeybees will become active for a few days, and the workers will be seen foraging on the available flowers. And as I mentioned, butterflies and bumblebees. But a lot of species will start to turn up. Calliphora vicina, the common bluebottle, will be knocking round your kitchen door and on outside walls, and that's always a species I love to see in January. Indeed, it's usually the first species that turns up around my house. But the winter period's typically the time when most naturalists and entomologists transfer their records into some online database such as iRecord, or into something like MapMate. I use MapMate, Dillis and I have always used MapMate, and input all our records into that, and that's how we generate the maps onto the website. But there is a lack of records appearing now, and I think there's a great deal of recorders in the Nottinghamshire area that rarely send their records in. I know of at least one counter recorder who's never sent any records in. He may well do now that he's a counter recorder, but previously, no, didn't send any in. I can't understand the point of going to the trouble of collecting records throughout the year, because that's what people do. They like to record species. Dennis and myself used to do that more than anybody, but also like to reproduce records. Currently on the NBN Atlas, Dennis and myself have put over 70,000 records solely from Nottinghamshire. Someone's got a lot of records to trawl through in 100 years or so's time. I was hoping that minotaurs might be active. I think they are. May well come across one as I have a yomp around here. But I do worry, and have done for a number of years, about the lack of recording in Nottinghamshire, and certainly the lack of recording of certain orders of invertebrates. Nottinghamshire's most recorded invertebrates is undoubtedly moths, but largely only macro moths. Dillis himself for many years have tried to advocate and encourage the recording of micro moths. There is, for some strange reason, the misnomer that all micro moths need dissecting to determine their identity, and that's rubbish, absolute rubbish. The majority of micro moths can be identified from either directly from a specimen, a live specimen, or from good quality photographs. You don't need to chop everything up. Saying that, there are some species that do require examination under a microscope, but that's worth doing in the long run. These last 3 or 4 years there's been a notable tendency for people to stop sending records in, and I don't think people are actually even writing records down and submitting them to the county recorders or to the relevant record centre. In Nottingham, the local record centre is all at an all, and that's always been Dennis and myself's first port of call for sending any records. Send it there first and then copies to the county recorders. Nowadays, the tendency seems to be to photograph something, ask for an ID on Facebook or Twitter, and that's it. The record never gets sent in and the record is lost. One of the most likely problems regarding biological recording in the next few years, and I don't think really this is too far away, is the lack of people's ability to correctly identify anything, and indeed the wish or desire to identify anything for themselves. It's become very easy, all too easy in fact now, to photograph something on your iPhone or whatever, send it in social media and have it instantly identified. People would rather do that than take a few minutes out, or sometimes a few hours, looking something up, tracking it down, doing a bit of research, using this. A few years' time they'll wonder what this is for. Look at that, eh? Beautiful blue sky. We had a bit of blue sky on Christmas Eve, only in the morning for a few hours, then it went. It clouded up and it remained cloudy until today. Let's hope we get a bit more the next couple of days. but certainly be appreciating the milder weather. Right, carry on, see if we can turn up a minotaur. But if you're one of those people who continually moans about winter, as I've said before, we don't get winters like we used to. Despite the fact that the next few days are going to be incredibly mild, which you really ought to make the most of, because it breaks the winter period up. But you can guarantee that at some time in the next 3 months there will be 1 or 2 cold spells, and that's the way that Nottinghamshire climate has gone the last few years. Milder winters and then cooler, cloudy springs. That could be the same again for 2022. But the next few days, get yourself out and about, experience the mild weather, because this is mild weather. You don't need big coats on. It's mild. I don't know how we'd go on if we had to experience winters like 1947 and 1963. Thankfully, I can't remember them, because I was only dragged kicking and screaming into this world in 1963. I bet you hate 1963 now, don't you? Oh dear. Well, no minotaur beetles. I wouldn't have been too surprised to have found one. You do get them out and about occasionally on milder days during the winter months. So no records to write up. No record of Typhaeus typhus, the minotaur beetle, to put into a spreadsheet and then input into MapMate, and then to send to the county recorder and the local record centre. I have got several thousand others to do though, that have accumulated throughout the course of 2021. I'd best get cracking, I suppose.